Welcome to the Dublin Conversations. Yulia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Andy. Good to be here. My name is Yulia Zaytseva. I am a social media, and public relations professional based in Sydney, Australia. I work in the non-for-profit and charity sector. Currently working for a major health charity here.
Welcome here. Well, let's go have what we call our 5 steps to Dublin and explore some new ideas to share with you, and very keen to get your reaction. So the context is that we're witnessing paradoxical change in the communications industry, where there's both greater fragmentation but also greater convergence, and that we need to rethink established ideas like advertising, journalism, marketing, public relations, and more, and either revitalize them or replace them with better ideas. And we also have new immense knowledge from anthropology, behavioral sciences, digital technology, and more. And can we use this new knowledge to create a new way forward and go beyond the existing boundaries of thinking? And can we co-create, come together to do our jobs better and rise to the challenge of our society of growing distrust, divisive tribalism, and not being able to come together to tackle our big issues? So we're doing this exercise to really unlearn some of our existing thinking, and then to think bigger and think different and explore new ideas. So let's have a Dublin conversation and take our ideas further forward. So step 1 is that Dublin Conversation believes that many worldviews of existing practitioners center their practice at the center of the universe, so that maybe a public relations practitioner, you might see the world with public relations at its center, or advertising and so on. And the Dublin Conversations believes that the idea of confidence, not confidence in a meaning of having greater self-belief necessarily, but its more statistical meaning of confidence that is a strong correlation with probability that something will happen. And therefore, in our work, it is about managing the social interactions, enabled to create confidence by managing perceptions around our future behaviours. So confidence in your consciousness gives you a strong sense of belief in what you perceive to be reality, who you are, your purpose. Creating confidence in others can help them to help you, and as I say, even down to zeitgeist confidence, where general moods. So we're saying that purpose and being purposeful makes it easier to create confidence by being more coherent and compelling. Just want any thoughts about this at all?
Look at it's absolutely confidence. I like the word confidence. Yeah. And you mentioned data as well.
Yeah.
That's where the confidence is coming from. And look, I think we really need to be listeners, to be good communicators, and good to be able to communicate with purpose. We need to be guided by the most accurate data that we can get. And we always need to consolidate, go back and double check, triple check before we make assumptions about something. And I think, yes, so behaviors, managing perceptions, absolutely. So we have many perceptions. We all have amazing ideas, and all people have amazing opinions, and these opinions are all different. But what I find is that when you work with your colleagues on some strategy or communication strategy, or communication plan or PR plan, you have these amazing ideas, and you think that, yeah, this is what our audiences want. This is exactly what they want. This is exactly what they need. But if you don't actually go and speak to those people, if you don't do your research, if you don't access the data, if you don't gather the data and compare the data with your own incredible thinking, you run a risk of being very, really, really mistaken. And in my current practice, I had this experience and I learned my lesson. It's really important to have good systems in place that gather data, analyze data, also collect data and compare data, let's say from 5 years time versus today. And also not just quantitative data, the qualitative data as well. You need to talk to the people who you're talking, you need to talk to the people who you're communicating to and communicating with as well. And this is where the purpose, is actually coming from. You need to have genuine conversations with your people. You need to have honest, open conversations, and that will hopefully help craft the purpose that then you will use in your future work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense at all. About, as I say, the data gives you the confidence that your what you perceive to be true is close to an accepted truth. We move on to the next step, which is that work from behavioural scientists show that we're emotionally driven animals, and that by doing one or more of these 5 things, you can successfully connect with others by being known and noticed, liked, and liked is not just being likable, but can also be respected or admired, trusted, front of mind. So even though you may be known, you need to be in the forefront of people's minds when they're making decisions, and being talked about, so that if you're unsure yourself, what's called social proof can help influence your thinking. So the Dublin conversation believes these sort of 5 dimensions frame any campaign, that any work you need to do is doing one or more of these things. So I just wonder, any sort of thoughts about this at all?
Absolutely. I love this. I love that we mentioned that we're humans and we're emotionally driven creatures. It absolutely is true. And it's important to look after things like reputation, whether it's a organizational reputation or your personal brand, personal reputation. It's important to stay front of mind. And I guess things like your traditional PR, it's all about staying on the top of your mind and staying, it's all about being featured in the media and featured in the headlines and being in the news all the time, right? But there is a reason behind it. There is a reason why we want to continuously remind our people that we exist, that we do all these fantastic things, and also it's a good opportunity to remind again about our purpose, why we exist, why what's our purpose, what's the value that we bring, what's the value that we bring to our people, to our audiences, to our communities. And obviously, as emotional creatures, we all want to be liked, we all want to be admired, I guess, and we want to have a good reputation, and we want to be able to also, I guess, access these circles that you wouldn't necessarily be a part of unless you're known and unless you're well known. So it's important to get outside and talk about all the amazing things that you do, whether obviously as the organization or as your client. If you work for the client, you do it for the client. I love these 5 rules, and I love the word trust. I think people need what people now are seeking, and they're expecting from organizations, from companies, whether it's government, non-for-profit, or corporate, is trust. They want to trust companies. And if there is something that we need to do is right now as an industry, I believe, is we need to invest in building trust, and that takes time. And it's not, you can't just buy trust. You can't just get 10 ads, or I don't know, pay for the front pages in the top newspapers. That's it. The days are over for that. Social media changed the game for organizations. You need to build trust.
Yeah. Okay. So it provides a framework for everyday doing and thinking. And then our third step is that building upon the idea of the PESO model that's familiar in the communications industry, but the Dublin conversation talks about opens choices, and the important distinction is these are not channels of how you reach, but choices you make in terms of how you socially interact and connect with others. And we talk about own, and you mentioned before about the importance of personal communication, directly engaging with people. So own is not just own media channels, but your own behaviors, own reputation, own interactions. Even spending time with someone can be a tool for earning trust. Paid for covers everything you pay for. Earned is about earned coverage, maybe in media coverage or search engine optimization, or even word of mouth. And a new element here is nudge, about making how you manage making choices easier for people. And lastly, shared, which covers social, online, and offline. Any thoughts about this sort of how this scopes the range of choices for people like yourself in your work?
The more options we have, the better it is. Obviously, I have to say we have now abundance of ways that we can communicate with our audiences, and that's amazing. That's exciting. That's what I personally really like about my industry. And we're also, as professionals, we need to be familiar with all of them, and we need to be able to change quickly, to adapt to, let's say, this year we're focusing on own channels, and next year we need to switch and focus on paid, or we need to be able to do everything. That's what I'm trying to say, I guess. And these are like our tools, and this is the toolkit for communication professionals, PR, media, even digital media, marketing, it's all interconnected. It's all it's all connected, and it's all important. You can't just have one and completely abandon the others, right? You need to have all the tools in your toolbox. And I guess the tool that's, I guess the word that came to my mind was empowering. And I really like the idea of empowering the people that you talk to, the people that you're communicating with, empowering them, giving them the voice to express what they want to hear, what they want to see. It's important. It's really reiterating that, I guess, two-way communication model, but it's taking it to the next level, truly giving them the opportunity to express their opinions and what they want to see. And it can be in a form of conversation. It can be in the form of even in a paid campaign. You can do that. And absolutely. So it's really, for me, as long as you take your audience into consideration, and as long as you give them the voice, all these tools are going to work, and they're all powerful, and it's amazing that we have them all, and it's amazing that we can combine them together to create interesting campaigns.
Okay. And then we'll move on to the next stage then, about how our reality is shaped by what's called emergence, that things emerge around us. A very simple tool called the Listen, Connect, Do model really explains how creativity and works and how we think of new ideas, that we listen, which you mentioned earlier about the importance there in successful and effective communications. We connect our listening to new things, and do might be developing an idea or putting an idea into practice. And what also has emerged in response to our world of greater complexity and govern is a label of comms, which at the moment doesn't have any really formal definition. And the Dublin Conversation believes that comms is bigger than communications and integrated communication, as it includes managing and influencing behaviours, being purposeful, and building social cohesion. And so the Dublin Conversation is proposing as a definition of comms as how you create confidence within yourself and with others to exist, coexist, cooperate, or collaborate by managing perceptions around your future behaviours, which is fundamental to being purposeful. So I just wonder, any thoughts about that? Do you use the term comms, and do you think it needs a definition like this, or could there be other better ways of defining it?
Yeah, oh, that's great. I love it. We use the word comms quite a lot. And even in my company, we used to be media. We used to be just media, and now we're moving into comms. So in the past 5 years, this transition has happened. I really do think that we need to clearly define the word comms, and I guess we sort of use it in a very conversational way, but I feel like we've passed that mark, and we need to just formalize it, and we just need to accept it and move on and move forward with it. And I actually really like the proposed definition: create confidence within yourself and within others to exist and coexist and cooperate, collaborate, managing perceptions around your future behaviors. It's fundamental to be purposeful. Absolutely. It actually encompasses everything that we cover as professionals, all those tools that we discussed in the previous step. And we use them all. They're all useful. They all have the meaning. And we use them to do comms.
Yeah, I'll tell you. So there seems to be quite a positive response. And one further dimension to listening to what emerges around us is that sociologists are now able to, sort of through experiments and tests, establish universal laws of human behaviour. One of which, for example, is that 2 out of 3 people will help a stranger. That also means that 1 out of 3 don't. So it's not making any judgment about this, but the Dublin Conversations believes this sort of provides a source for 2 key instincts that guide people's responses. So there can be we-led people who think of others in their first response, think of the collective interest first as opposed to their own, and me-led thinking, where you think of self-interest first. And potentially these 2 instincts could provide the seeds for maybe a future public relations practice, which is we-led thinking, whereas advertising is a more of a me-led thinking. I just wonder if you had any thoughts on this idea.
Yeah, very, very interesting, actually. We-led versus me-led. I feel like it also comes back to that idea that, oh yes, we're all animals, we're all emotional animals, and our responses are guided by our feelings. In some ways, it's good. In other ways, it's not. And absolutely, I think the world of me-led conversations and me-led campaigns is probably coming to an end, and we need to be a lot more accepting. We need to be a lot more inclusive. We need to be a lot more listeners. We need to be listeners. We need to acknowledge others. We need to think of others. That's what we need to think of others. We need to include others in whatever we do. So I think WeLed is probably going to be number one, or needs to be number one priority for public relations professionals, or media professionals out there, because MeLed is not, it's not trustworthy. When you see a company that is clearly just thinking of its own benefit and of its own profits, you don't want to deal with it. Like, you don't want to be a customer. You don't want to invest your time in that company. It's not trustworthy. It's not appealing in any way. So you're failing as a public relations professional if you don't actually, if you're not led by we model. So I think we are now transitioning into this more we-led practice, definitely.
That's very, very fabulous. And then lastly, that our society functions because there's sufficient trust between people to coexist and cooperate. The Dublin Conversations label this a purposeful trust, and that without it, our society cannot function. But we're suggesting that communications practice needs not only to earn confidence, but also invest in social cohesion, so that whatever we do is not only to achieve an outcome for our specific needs, but also contributes to building wider social cohesion. Any thoughts there at all?
Oh, yes. Looking at the major trends that are happening everywhere around the world, it is so important to be able to, again, build that purposeful trust. We need to always consider how it's going to affect. We need to always consider how our actions or how our decisions are going to affect others. And again, it's all connected to trust. It's all connected to listening. It's all connected to a reputation. So all these steps that we have discussed, they're all linked, and that's what I actually really like. But I definitely get a feeling that there are just too many things happening in this world, and we just need to we need to find ways to coexist. We need to find ways to cooperate, collaborate, no matter what. And to do that, you absolutely need to invest in communication practice. You need to invest in that social cohesion and that confidence driven by data, factual information, and I guess the greater good as well. Yeah. The greater good, what's good for our world, what's good for the future, what's good for the society. So when we can't just be driven by, goals that bring profit, profit numbers. No. We need to be driven by, we need to be guided by what's right. What's the right thing to do right now? What's the right thing to do? And we need to back it up with the data. We need to always go back and consolidate. We need to go back and talk to our audiences and engage them in every single part of what we do, part of the strategy that we create. Have I addressed this step in some way? I guess, yeah. It's just, I think it's just all, it comes down to being inclusive. It comes down to be considerate and to always not just assume things about how things are. Again, in our heads, we all think we have amazing ideas. We need to look outside, and we need to critically analyze the environment and find the tools that will work in this particular environment, and be considerate of others, and not just think of our own benefit and our own profits, and have this two-way communication, that win-win sort of model. Yeah. More diplomatic approach, maybe. It's another way to talk about it.
Yeah. And then lastly, the sort of fun of taking you on a 5-step journey from Sydney to Dublin. How do you feel now, having a sort of had a conversation around the subject? Do you feel more confident about addressing what does better look like in the future in terms of your work and for the wider communications industry?
Oh yes, look, I'm so passionate about communications, and I think we actually need to talk more about the trends that are happening right now and what's worked, what worked, what hasn't worked, and we need to learn from each other. We need to learn from communication professionals from different countries and different cultures as well. It's important to, again, be considerate and learn from the best, and also share the knowledge with your colleagues. And this is how, I guess, we can achieve best practice, which we all want to have. We all want to be guided by what's best, what's going to work, and what's going to bring the most value to what we do, and also not just to what we do, but to our people, to our audiences. How can we communicate better? I feel like it's a good time to start thinking about what's the next chapter is going to look like in this transformed world of communication and PR and media and social media. And again, we need to, I think it's not just one conversation, it's not just two conversations, it's actually regular conversations that we need to have. And Dublin sounds like an amazing place for it.
Sure it is. Is there one or more things we should be doing different in our quest to help people with, what does better look like?
Oh, it's hard to know. I think many times you just need to get started, and you need to start this conversation, and then see how it's going to evolve and where it's all going to go. Because all people who are getting involved, they all have something to add, and they all can recommend something different, and you can take it on board and obviously make it even better. But I think having open, honest conversations with people of different backgrounds, from different cultural backgrounds and different countries, different areas of communications as well. We need to bring them all together and have this open discussion, and that will bring like gold. That will bring something truly, truly amazing. I have no doubts.
Any action steps do you think we need to be taking? Anything further we need to be doing?
Oh, I love actions. We can talk for hours. We can talk. Talk is cheap. Look, talk is important, but talk is very important, because without having conversations, you can't do anything. But what is, I guess, even more valuable and what is more important is actually take actions, take right actions, and also learn. Also learn from the actions that you take. So go back and analyze. Go back and see, did it work or maybe not? Okay, what can we do better? So I think I really like this idea of MVP, minimal viable product. Whatever we come up with, what's the easiest thing that we can implement right now? How can we test this idea? How can we test this system? Doesn't matter. You can be a PR professional, media professional, social media, doesn't matter, digital marketing. How can we test our idea? How can we test our tactic that we want to implement, and do it straight away? Analyze it, consolidate, talk to your people, and then take another step. That's how I feel like are going to achieve great results and learn and truly evolve as a profession. And I personally believe that the future is bright for our amazing profession. I might be a bit biased, but I think the future is bright because now more than ever, and I hate this word, but more than ever, we need to talk. We need to be able to talk, and we need to be able to take positive action that will help um, uh, that will help people around the world better understand each other and make better, more informed decisions. Yeah.
That's excellent contribution, and really enjoyed the conversation. I've grown immensely from listening to you and conversing with you. So thank you so much, and thank you for being part of the conversation.
Thank you so much, Andy. It's wonderful. It's a privilege. It's an honor to be a part of it, and I'm really, really happy that we're doing it.
Great stuff.
Thank you.